Attention, attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So, obviously, and I caught myself, but Chris Christie has been making the rounds lately, and on the news, and it's weird when he pops up occasionally, and you're like, why? What has he ever offered to the conversation other than being sort of like Ted Cruz and these other folks who just fall in line behind Trump? They spend a ton of time. Donald, you're a coward, and you can't talk that way about Heidi. Unless you love me. Love me. Sorry, Heidi. That for whatever, like theirs was a master class in just sycophantic cowardice. I mean, it was shocking. If not surprising, I suppose, to watch these guys do this. I think a lot of people were just gobsmacked about the idea, like, how do these guys live with themselves? How do you go home? How do you say something like, let that dude talk that way about your wife, and then challenge him basically while you're, still running your campaign? He's a coward, now tell him to his face, and then just literally become his, testicle cradler for the next, 4 years, just unabashedly. Can't throw yourself on enough grenades for the dude. Just offering to dive in front of the bus. It'd be one thing if you kind of pulled a Mitt Romney, which is like, maybe if I get in the cabinet, I can do some good and push back on his nonsense. Oh, it was just a lie. All right, well, I'm going to ignore him. I'll vote with him when he does sort of run-of-the-mill Republican stuff, like certain judges and that kind of thing. But I'll vote against him if he does anything egregious. But most of the time, I'll soldier and keep my mouth shut. There were a bunch of those people, vast majority of them. It's why you only know the names, unless somebody, really digs down, of about 9 Republican senators, right? The rest of them are like, oh boy, right? Just pretending they're not complicit while voting along party lines, right? But Chris Christie has a book coming out, and it's got one of these like big convoluted titles, Republican Rescue: How We Can Reclaim America and the Voice of Freedom and whatever. Who cares? The main point of it, though, is that they have to put Trump in the rearview mirror if they're gonna do anything. They have to, and somebody was eventually gonna get to it, but a lot of people were going, is it going to take 10 years? Is Trump going to have to pass away before it happens? Is he going to have to do a giant something that gets himself, besides getting booed for suggesting vaccines, he's going to have to jump some kind of Trump shark to get there, right?
So the question is him to pass away.
Well, we all do. We'll all get there, and we wish it on no one, and especially those among us who we know are awful and miserable. Trump's lawyers filed, an injunction to stop the documents from coming out from the National Archives about his communications leading up to January 6th, calling the charges, among other things, the request for documents, among other things, vexatious, which we were all happy to look up online live as the statement came out, which of course means annoying and worrisome. And that's exactly what it is. It scares the crap out of them. So as long as someone who is awful and is going to be around, I would like for them to be annoyed every morning. I don't wish illness and death on anyone, but I do wish constant and never-ending agitation, an itch they can never scratch, and the kind of, anybody who's gone through a bill collector phase in their life, or maybe in one now, you know that thing when your phone rings and you do that, and you're like, oh God, right? Those, I wish that, I mean, that, and he lives there. I mean, he's probably comfortable
thoughts
that way.
As you're trying to get to sleep, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, on and on and on. Again, I don't wish him ill or some lightning bolt from out of nowhere. I just want him, I wish upon him sort of a telltale heart moment, that he is haunted by his own conscience and the fear that he will finally get what's coming to him. That's it. And because this will fade. He's not running in 2024. Get used to the idea. And that's why this has started. So the main gist of what Chris Christie's been talking about is that he's saying that Trump and everybody else needs to move on from 2020, put it in the taillights, admit that it's a nuts conspiracy. That's his word. And that Trump believes these things along with these other people. So, AKA cogito ergo sum, both nuts. Trump nuts. That sounds bad. Christie told CNN that Trump must tell the truth, quote, if he wants to be a positive force in the midterms. He does not. That's the thing. Chris Christie wants to be a positive force in the midterms. Trump is not going to be a positive force in the midterms. Trump is going to be mad that other people are running for election and might get elected, and he ain't. So he's going to, everywhere you drag him, ask Youngkin. That's why Youngkin didn't want him at a rally with him, because he would have just gone up there and scared people off of voting. Youngkin squeaked by trying to get the maggots that still vote to come out and do it, and he managed to. And it worked. And everybody else is looking at the Youngkin win. As much as Trump wants to claim it, Trump distanced himself. We showed the Judge Jeanine interview that he did, where, he's like, well, it might be in the good column, the win column, or the lose column. We'll see, or whatever. He's like, yeah, I endorse him because he's the Republican and we don't like McAuliffe, but we'll see if I want to add that to my list. And that's not an endorsement. An endorsement is, I don't care if he wins or loses. That's the guy. That's what an endorsement is. Picking winners is not an endorsement. That's what Trump is doing. I think this guy can win is not an endorsement. It never is. It's like when Trump says, I'd like to thank veterans. We'll do it. I'd like to thank, as the lead-in for those kind of sentences, is self-congratulatory. He does it all the time. The same thing is true about him picking winners. He's not endorsing these people. He's just saying, I think I want to be on their side if they won. That's it. Because he feels like a loser. And he will for a very long time. Christie has broken with Trump in the past, saying last September that Trump should accept defeat. Which, by the way, also, Trump has. He makes a lot of noise and bluster about this. I've done his rallies on the other show. Look at him when he say we really won. His face twist, the way he kind of is dejected. People are cheering for him. He's never been more miserable, which is why I support Trump doing more rallies. He should do more of them, and he should start charging admission, because that's the only way he's going to be able to get money into that account at some point. But this is, Chris Christie wants Trump to admit defeat publicly. Trump has already conceded that he lost. He just doesn't do it publicly because he's easily embarrassed. He has no shame, but he's easily embarrassed, which is why he talks about the Afghan withdrawal, not based on its geopolitical importance, but because it's the most embarrassing thing in American history. He keeps saying embarrassment because that's the only emotion he can relate to, and therefore he thinks that's other people's Achilles heel. You know what I mean? Like you think your weakness is other people's weakness. If you're not smart enough to adapt to your opponent or whoever you're up against and what their true weakness is. And by the way, the only reason he bested Chris Christie and the others in the Republican primary in 2016 was because their weakness is his weakness. He was running against a bunch of easily embarrassed but shameless narcissistic wannabes from the Chris Christies of the world, to Santorum, to Jeb Bush, to Ted Cruz especially. Right. All of those guys are easily embarrassed, but shameless. All of them feel like losers all the time, and they're trying to take it out on the world. That's what the posturing's about. And so Trump lives life like he's posturing. And then with Jeb Bush, please clap. Right? That's embarrassing. That's what killed him. That was the moment that he lost, because embarrassment is the Like, I think Democrats in many ways recognize shame and sometimes overwhelm people with it. We weaponize shame against our own and against other people. That's what effectively, at its exaggerated point, what the whole cancel culture concept is about. That's weaponizing shame, right? That's the point of it. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of what you're saying. And if you're not ashamed of yourself, we're ashamed that you're here. And you shouldn't be allowed here because it's a shame. Like, that's really it. Not, he said something embarrassing and we're all feeling embarrassed, so could you please leave? This is embarrassing, like we're all at a cocktail party and your pants fell down. It's a difference in emotion and a depth to it. Both sides live in an overreach and a lot at their extremes, but when it comes to the embarrassment stuff, they will do shameless things as long as they don't get embarrassed, as long as they're seen as winning. And again, this is why a lot of people support, Trump. He's the pit bull that maybe shakes the baby, but as long as he bites the people I want him to bite, I can put up with that. So that's, and it won't matter. This is Chris Christie and everybody else recognizing that the infrastructure bill passed. The Build Back Better bill may or may not pass in some form or another over the next couple of weeks, or may get punted till next spring because of inflation concerns, and then get passed then, by the way, and start going into effect and help people out over the summer and into the school year, and then the election comes back. The timing could even be better in the spring, is a genuinely arguable point, which would be even worse for Republicans. But Chris Christie and them know that there's going to be a lot of shovels in the ground over the next year, and a lot of union jobs and a lot of good jobs, and the tangential jobs that they, add to over the next year, they're going to have to run on something else. They're not going to be able to run on Trump's record as of February. It won't work. And that's the scary part. We got to take a break. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.